6 years later, she returned with her twins for revenge. She exacted unbelievable revenge and brought him to his knees. Hi, my beautiful story readers. Welcome to Mr. Peter's Stories. Today I am upset and heartbroken for the people of Los Angeles, watching as they endure such unimaginable pain and loss. Tears fill my eyes as I think of those who have lost everything, homes, memories, and the security they once knew. I lost one of my close friends. Tears are in my eyes. I cannot explain my feelings. My soul aches for the families, the children, and the communities left in the aftermath of such devastation. I pray with all my heart that they find comfort in each other, strength in their faith, and hope for a brighter tomorrow. Lord, wrap them in your love and guide them through this darkness. Amen. Let's start the story with a broken heart. The Chicago skyline painted a perfect backdrop against the setting February sun, its golden rays catching the frost patterns on the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Drake penthouse. Zara Phoenix stood before the sprawling view, her hand resting instinctively on her growing belly, feeling the gentle flutter of movement beneath her palm. At 32, she had crafted the life little girls dreamed about, a brilliant career as one of Chicago Memorial's leading neurosurgeons, a marriage to the city's most celebrated venture capitalist, and now twins on the way. The evening light caught her wedding ring, sending prismatic patterns dancing across the imported Italian marble floors. She smiled, remembering the day Kingston had proposed, down on one knee in the middle of his company's charity gala, declaring to Chicago's elite that he'd found his queen. 4 years of marriage had been a whirlwind of social events, medical breakthroughs, and building their empire together. The Drake-Phoenix power couple, they called them in the society pages. Zara adjusted her designer maternity dress, a custom-made piece that draped perfectly over her 7-month pregnant form. The twins were active tonight, perhaps sensing the importance of the evening ahead. Kingston was hosting a crucial investment dinner, and as always, she had ensured everything would be perfect. The private chef was preparing his signature dishes, the flowers were arranged to perfection, and she had personally selected the wine pairings, though she wouldn't be partaking herself. Her phone buzzed with a message from Dr. Carter, her obstetrician. The latest test results had come in, confirming what they'd discussed during their lengthy appointment yesterday. The experimental procedure had worked. Both twins were developing normally now. Tears of relief welled in her eyes as she read the report. The past 3 months had been a careful dance of specialized treatments, long monitoring sessions, and desperate prayers. The sound of the elevator's arrival pulled her attention from the message. Kingston was home early, unusual for a dinner night. She slipped her phone into her clutch, ready to share the good news about their sons. "You really thought you could fool me?" The ice in Kingston's voice froze her in place. She turned slowly, her medical training automatically noting his physical signs of agitation: dilated pupils, rigid posture, slight tremor in his right hand. Her husband of 4 years stood in the doorway, his steel-grey Tom Ford suit as cold as his eyes. The usual warmth in his chiseled features had been replaced by something she'd never seen before: pure contempt. "What are you talking about?" Zara's voice remained steady, years of performing delicate surgeries having taught her to stay calm under pressure. "Kingston, what's wrong?" "I had you followed, Zara." He stepped into the room, each footfall echoing like a judge's gavel. "Did you think I wouldn't notice? The 3-hour appointments, the secret meetings, the private dinners with Dr. Carter." Understanding dawned, followed quickly by disbelief. "Dr. Carter is my obstetrician," she explained, willing him to see reason. "These appointments were necessary for..." "Necessary for what?" Kingston's laugh was harsh, foreign. He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a manila envelope. "Necessary for carrying on an affair? For trying to pass off another man's children as mine?" The envelope hit the floor at her feet, its contents spilling out like accusations. Photographs scattered across the marble. Zara entering medical buildings, sitting in restaurants with Dr. Carter, their heads bent close together over documents. Each image innocent, each moment twisted by suspicion into something sinister. "Those babies aren't mine." Kingston's words fell like bombs in the silent room. "I've seen the appointment logs, the meeting times. No prenatal checkup takes 3 hours, Zara. Do you deny meeting him privately? Having dinners I knew nothing about?" Zara's hand pressed protectively against her stomach as one of the twins kicked. "You're not thinking clearly," she said, fighting to keep her voice level. "Dr. Carter and I were working on a pioneering prenatal procedure. The twins needed—" "The twins!" Kingston spat the word like poison. "Don't you dare call them that! Don't you dare stand in my home wearing jewelry I bought you, carrying another man's children, and try to deceive me! Listen to yourself." Zara's composure finally cracked. "I'm your wife. These are your sons. How dare you accuse me of—" "How dare I?" Kingston closed the distance between them in 3 long strides. He towered over her, his cologne, once comforting, now suffocating. "I dare because I'm not a fool, Zara, though you certainly played me for one. Did you laugh about it with him? Poor, trusting Kingston, so wrapped up in his business empire he couldn't see what was happening in his own home." Zara's medical training kicked in again, cataloguing symptoms: elevated blood pressure, increased heart rate, stress on the babies. She needed to diffuse this situation quickly. "Kingston, please, let me explain about the procedure. Let me show you the medical records. These appointments were about saving our boys' lives." "Our boys?" His voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "I had your phone records pulled, dozens of calls, hundreds of text messages, all to him, always to him. Because he was monitoring a high-risk pregnancy." Zara's voice rose despite her best efforts to stay calm. "The twins needed specialized care. There were complications we had to—" The sound of Kingston's hand slamming against the window made her jump. "Stop lying!" he roared. "Stop using these supposed complications as cover for your affair. God, how long has it been going on? Since before the marriage? Was that your plan all along? Marry the rich businessman, live the high life, then trap him with another man's children?" Tears spilled down Zara's cheeks, but she held her ground. "You're not thinking rationally. This isn't you, Kingston. Someone's been poisoning your mind with lies, and you're letting them destroy everything we've built." "No, Zara." Kingston stepped back, straightening his tie with trembling fingers. "You destroyed everything, but I'm ending it now." He pulled out his phone, pressing a single button. "Send them up." The elevator dinged again, and 2 security guards stepped into the penthouse. Zara recognized them from the lobby, but their usual friendly smiles were replaced with professional masks. "Mrs. Drake," one began, but Kingston cut him off. "It's Ms. Phoenix now," he said coldly, "and she was just leaving." "Kingston, don't do this," Zara pleaded, suddenly understanding what was happening. "Think about what you're throwing away. Think about your sons." "You have 1 hour to leave the city," Kingston continued as if she hadn't spoken. "Your accounts have been frozen. Your hospital privileges have been revoked. If you ever return to Chicago, I'll make sure you never practice medicine again." The security guards moved toward her with apologetic expressions. Zara straightened her spine, summoning every ounce of dignity she possessed. "You're making a mistake," she said quietly. "One day you'll realize what you've done, and it will haunt you for the rest of your life. The only mistake I made was trusting you." Kingston turned his back, staring out at his beloved city. "Get her out of my sight." As the guards led her to the elevator, Zara caught a final glimpse of the life she was being torn from. The perfect furniture, the perfect view, the perfect lie. Her hand curved protectively around her belly, feeling her sons move beneath her palm. "It's okay, my loves," she whispered as the elevator doors closed on her former life. "We don't need him. We'll rise from this, and when we do, he'll regret the day he threw us away." The descent from the penthouse felt eternal, each floor marking another piece of her world crumbling away. But deep inside, beneath the pain and betrayal, a spark of determination ignited. Kingston Drake had just made the biggest mistake of his life, and one day he would learn exactly how much it would cost him. Outside, Chicago's winter wind cut through her designer dress like knives, but Zara Phoenix stood tall. The twins kicked again, stronger this time, as if telling her they were ready for whatever came next. She hailed a taxi, her mind already calculating her next moves. "Where to?" the driver asked. Zara took one last look at Drake Tower, its gleaming spire reaching into the darkening sky. "Away," she said firmly. "As far away from here as possible." As the taxi pulled away from the curb, she made a silent vow to her unborn children. They would not just survive this betrayal, they would rise from it, stronger and more powerful than Kingston could imagine. And when the time was right, they would return to show him exactly what he had thrown away. The city lights blurred past the window, and Zara Phoenix began to plan her revenge. Chapter 2. Exile. The rain pounded against the windows of the taxi like bullets, each drop an echo of Zara's shattered dreams. Chicago's streets, once her playground of success, now seemed to close in around her with every passing block. Her phone buzzed incessantly, notifications of accounts being frozen, credit cards declined, email access revoked. Kingston's revenge was swift and methodical. Exactly what she would have expected from a man who had built an empire on calculated decisions. The first declined transaction came at the Ritz-Carlton, where the concierge's face shifted from professional courtesy to barely concealed pity. "I'm sorry, Dr. Phoenix, but your corporate account has been terminated." The words hung in the opulent lobby like a death sentence. Her personal cards followed suit, each declined transaction another door slamming shut in her face. Through the taxi's foggy window, she watched as they passed Chicago Memorial, where just yesterday she had been Dr. Zara Phoenix, the brilliant neurosurgeon who had pioneered minimally invasive brainstem procedures. Now, according to the terse email from the chief of surgery, her privileges were temporarily suspended pending investigation. Kingston's influence reached far beyond his business empire. "You have an hour to leave the city," his words echoed in her mind, a countdown to exile. The twins kicked restlessly, sensing their mother's distress. Zara placed both hands on her belly, trying to calm them and herself. "Everything's going to be okay," she whispered, though the words felt hollow in the taxi's damp air. "We're going to be okay." Her phone rang. Jasmine Reynolds, her closest friend from Johns Hopkins. Zara's fingers trembled as she answered. "Girl, what the hell is happening?" Jasmine's voice was tight with concern. "Kingston's people are calling everyone, spreading some story about—" "Don't," Zara cut her off, her voice breaking. "Please, just don't repeat it. Not now." There was a pause on the line, filled only by the sound of rain and distant thunder. "Where are you?" "In a taxi, nowhere specific." Zara watched another hospital, another potential employer, pass by through the rain-streaked window. "He's frozen everything, Jazz. Accounts, cards, hospital privileges. He's even calling my references, poisoning the well. That vindictive son of a—" Jasmine took a deep breath. "Listen to me carefully. There's a Delta flight to Atlanta, leaving O'Hare in 2 hours. I'm buying you a ticket right now with my miles. You're coming to stay with me." "Jazz, I can't ask you to—" "You're not asking, I'm telling. You're 7 months pregnant with twins, Zara. You need a safe place to land, and I have a guest house that's sitting empty. Plus, Georgia Medical Center's always looking for neurosurgeons." Tears mixed with mascara, creating dark rivers down Zara's cheeks. "He'll blacklist me there too." "Let him try." Jasmine's voice hardened. "My father's on the board. Kingston Drake might own Chicago, but he doesn't own the entire medical community. Not yet. The taxi driver, who had been pretending not to listen, cleared his throat. O'Hare, then, miss. Zara looked at her reflection in the window. Designer dress soaked, makeup smeared, but spine still straight. Yes, she said firmly. O'Hare. The drive to the airport became a blur of emergency calls and desperate measures. Her lawyer reached on his private line, promised to fight the account freezes, but warned it could take weeks. Her obstetrician, Dr. Carter, was equally helpless. Kingston's legal team has already contacted the hospital's ethics board, he explained, frustration evident in his voice. I can send your records to any doctor you choose, but they're demanding a full review of our appointments. Those appointments saved my son's lives, Zara said bitterly. The experimental procedure... I know, Zara, I know, but Kingston's people are spinning it differently. Just get somewhere safe. Take care of yourself and those boys. The truth will come out eventually. The truth. Such a simple word for such a complicated mess. As the taxi approached O'Hare, Zara's phone lit up with a final email from Kingston's assistant. A list of items from the penthouse being shipped to storage. Her entire life reduced to an inventory spreadsheet. At the Delta counter, Jasmine's promised ticket waited. The airline agent took one look at Zara's tear-stained face and 7-month belly and quietly upgraded her to first class. Small mercies in a storm of cruelty. Security was another hurdle. Her ID still worked, but the TSA agent's lingering look at her clear distress nearly triggered a secondary screening. Only her medical license, not yet revoked, and her obvious pregnancy saved her from further delays. In the first-class lounge, Zara finally had a moment to breathe. She found a quiet corner and opened her laptop, only to find her email filled with messages from Chicago's social circle, former friends now either expressing shock at her betrayal or quietly distancing themselves from the scandal. Kingston had been thorough in his character assassination. According to the whispers already circulating, she had been having an affair with Dr. Carter for months, possibly years. The twins were supposedly the result of this illicit relationship, and her long appointments were trysts disguised as medical consultations. The truth that those appointments had involved an experimental procedure to save the twins from a rare genetic condition was buried under layers of carefully crafted lies. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. A photo appeared. Kingston at their favorite restaurant, already dining with Victoria Ashcroft, the daughter of his company's biggest investor. The message below was simple. Moving on. Don't come back. Zara's hands shook as she deleted the message. The twins kicked again, stronger this time, as if protesting their father's cruelty. She placed her hand on her belly, feeling their movements. We don't need him, she whispered fiercely. We're going to build something new, something better. And one day, we'll come back and show him exactly what he threw away. The flight to Atlanta began boarding. Zara gathered her few remaining possessions, her medical credentials, a laptop, and a small bag of essentials she'd managed to grab. Everything else, her entire life in Chicago, was gone. As she walked down the jet bridge, her phone buzzed one final time, a message from her former chief resident. Whatever he's saying, I know you. Be safe, Doctor. Phoenix. Rise again. Rise again. The words stuck with her as she settled into her seat, watching Chicago's lights disappear beneath storm clouds. Phoenix, her family name, chosen by her grandmother to honor their rise from slavery to success. Now it would become her banner, her battle cry. The plane took off into the storm, banking south toward Atlanta. Zara placed her hands protectively over her belly, feeling the twins move beneath her palms. In the darkness of the cabin, she began to plan. First, she would secure a safe place for her sons to be born. Jasmine's guest house would provide temporary shelter, but she needed more. She needed a foundation to build upon, a base from which to launch her return. Second, she would document everything. The medical procedures, Dr. Carter's treatments, the genetic condition that had threatened her sons. Everything Kingston had twisted into accusations would become ammunition for her eventual return. Third, she would rebuild her career, step by careful step. If Kingston thought he could erase her from the medical community, he would learn just how wrong he was. She hadn't become one of Chicago's top neurosurgeons by backing down from challenges. And finally, when everything was in place, when her sons were safe and her position secure, she would begin her real work. Kingston had taught her well. In business, timing was everything. Revenge, she decided, would be the same. The twins kicked again, a synchronized movement that brought a smile to her tear-stained face. "That's right, my loves," she whispered. "We're phoenixes, and phoenixes always rise from the ashes." Below, Chicago vanished into the storm, taking with it the life she had built and the man who had destroyed it. But in the darkness of the cabin, illuminated only by distant lightning, Zara Phoenix began to write her next chapter. The plane climbed higher, breaking through the storm clouds into clear air. Ahead lay Atlanta, uncertainty, and the first steps of a journey that would eventually lead her back to Chicago. Not as a victim, not as an exile, but as something far more dangerous. A woman with nothing left to lose and everything to prove. Kingston Drake had no idea what he had just created, but he would learn. Oh, how he would learn. Chapter 3. Rebirth in Atlanta. Atlanta's humidity wrapped around Zara like a heavy blanket as she stepped off the plane, the southern air a stark contrast to Chicago's winter chill. Jasmine Reynolds waited at baggage claim, her white coat still on from her rounds at Georgia Medical Center. The moment their eyes met, Jasmine's professional demeanor crumbled, and she rushed forward to embrace her friend. "Lord, look at you," Jasmine whispered, pulling back to examine Zara's tear-stained face and protective hands curved around her belly. 7 months pregnant and still looking like a queen, even after everything. The twins kicked, as if recognizing a friendly voice. Zara managed a weak smile. "They're active tonight. Maybe they know we're somewhere safe." Jasmine's guest house turned out to be a fully furnished 2-bedroom cottage behind her Buckhead mansion, complete with a state-of-the-art security system and a private garden. "Daddy insisted," she explained, helping Zara settle onto the plush sofa. "He says no pregnant woman should feel unsafe, especially not one of my sisters from Hopkins." The mention of medical school brought fresh tears to Zara's eyes. "Kingston's probably reaching out to Hopkins right now, spreading his lies." "Let him try." Jasmine's voice hardened. "Dr. Wilson is still department chair, and she remembers who graduated top of our class. Besides," she added, pulling out her phone, "I've been making some calls of my own." Over the next few hours, as the Georgia night settled around them, Jasmine outlined her plan. Her father, Dr. James Reynolds, wasn't just on the board of Georgia Medical Center. He was its chairman, and he had no intention of letting Kingston Drake's vendetta prevent him from acquiring a talented neurosurgeon. "Daddy's arranging a private meeting with the Credentials Committee next week," Jasmine explained. "We'll get your privileges transferred before Kingston's people can interfere, and I've already spoken to my OB colleague, Dr. Alexandria Torres. She specializes in high-risk pregnancies and can pick up where Dr. Carter left off." Zara's hands tightened around her belly. "The experimental procedure—" Dr. Carter faxed over the complete protocol. "Dr. Torres is reviewing it tonight. We're not letting anything happen to these boys, you hear me?" The next few weeks passed in a blur of medical appointments, credential reviews, and quiet preparation. Dr. Torres proved to be a godsend, understanding the complexities of the twins' condition and the experimental treatment that had saved their lives. She worked closely with Dr. Carter via secure video conferences, ensuring the continuity of care Kingston had tried to destroy. The guest house slowly transformed into a home. Jasmine's interior decorator appeared one morning, arms full of color swatches and nursery designs. "Dr. Reynolds says money is no object," she announced, spreading out plans for a state-of-the-art nursery. "And these babies deserve the best." Zara tried to protest the expense, but Jasmine wouldn't hear it. "Consider it an investment in my future nephews," she insisted. "Besides, what else am I going to spend my money on? Another sports car?" The nursery took shape. 2 custom cribs in rich mahogany, walls painted in soothing shades of blue and gold, and a mural of constellations spanning the ceiling. "For my star boys," Zara whispered, watching the painters work. Atlas and Orion, names she had chosen long before Kingston's betrayal, now felt more appropriate than ever. But it wasn't all peaceful preparation. Kingston's influence reached far, and some doors closed before Zara could even approach them. 3 private practices rescinded their interview offers after receiving calls from Chicago. 2 medical device companies withdrew consulting contracts. Each rejection stung, but Zara channeled the pain into determination. Dr. James Reynolds proved to be as formidable an ally as his daughter had promised. When Kingston's lawyers attempted to challenge Zara's credentials transfer, he personally called the Chicago Memorial Board chairman. The content of that conversation never became public, but the challenges mysteriously ceased. At 8 months pregnant, Zara received her new privileges at Georgia Medical Center. The Credentials Committee, impressed by her research and surgical innovations, offered her not just staff privileges, but a position as attending neurosurgeon. It wasn't the department head role she'd held in Chicago, but it was a start. "You rebuild from the ground up, Doctor," Reynolds told her after the meeting. "Show them what you can do, and the rest will follow." The storms came in March, rolling across Atlanta with thunder that shook the guest house windows. Zara was reviewing patient files when the first contraction hit, sharp, insistent, 2 weeks earlier than expected. She called Jasmine, who arrived within minutes, already in doctor mode. "Blood pressure's elevated," Jasmine announced, checking the portable monitor she'd insisted on installing. "We're not taking any chances. Time to meet these boys." The drive to Georgia Medical Center was tense. Another contraction hit as they pulled into the emergency bay, where Dr. Torres waited with a team. "Let's get you settled," she said calmly, but Zara caught the concern in her eyes. These little ones are eager to make their appearance. The next 18 hours tested every ounce of Zara's strength. The experimental procedure that had saved the twins' lives had also complicated the delivery. Each contraction brought new challenges. Each monitor reading required careful interpretation. Through it all, Jasmine never left her side. She held Zara's hand through the contractions, wiped her brow during the brief moments of rest, and fiercely advocated when a young resident suggested a course of treatment that conflicted with Dr. Carter's protocol. "Push!" Dr. Torres commanded as thunder cracked outside. "I can see the first one's head. One more big push, Zara." Atlas Phoenix arrived at 3:47 a.m., announcing his presence with a powerful cry that echoed through the delivery room. His brother Orion followed 6 minutes later, equally vocal in his arrival. Both boys were perfect. Strong lungs, healthy hearts, and skin the color of morning coffee, just like their mothers. "Your boys are fighters," Jasmine said, watching the twins in their incubator, her voice thick with emotion, "just like their mama." Zara touched the glass separating her from her sons, watching their tiny chests rise and fall in perfect synchronization. "They're all I have left," she whispered, "and they're all I need." The news of the twins' birth traveled fast in Atlanta's medical community. Flowers filled Zara's private room, along with cards and offers of support from her new colleagues. Dr. Reynolds himself stopped by, proudly declaring himself the twins' honorary grandfather. But alone in the quiet hours of the night, as she held her sons and watched the Atlanta skyline glitter through her hospital window, Zara allowed herself to feel the full weight of Kingston's absence. He should have been here, pacing the waiting room, crying at their first sight, holding his sons with trembling hands. Instead, he was in Chicago, probably still believing the lies he'd chosen over truth. "Your father made a choice," she told the sleeping twins. "He chose pride over love, suspicion over trust. But you, my beautiful boys, you're going to have everything he threw away, and one day he'll realize exactly what he lost." Dr. Torres discharged them after a week of observation, satisfied that both twins were thriving despite their earlier complications. The drive home to the guest house felt surreal, Zara in the back seat between two car seats, each containing a perfect, sleeping baby. The nursery welcomed them with soft lighting and the gentle hum of premium air purifiers. Zara settled into the custom glider, a twin in each arm, and watched the early morning light paint shadows across the constellation mural above. "Welcome home, my stars," she whispered, pressing gentle kisses to their foreheads. Atlas yawned, his tiny hand finding his brother's in their shared embrace. Orion squirmed closer to his mother's heart, already showing the determination that would mark his character. Jasmine found them there an hour later, all three sleeping peacefully in the morning light. She snapped a picture, the first of many that would document the Phoenix family's rise from the ashes of betrayal. The next few months established their rhythm. Zara began taking cases at Georgia Medical Center, starting with consultations and working her way back to the operating room. The medical community quickly recognized her expertise, and soon she was receiving referrals from across the Southeast. The twins grew stronger each day, their personalities emerging like sunrise. Atlas, born first, showed his mother's analytical nature early, his dark eyes tracking movement with uncanny focus. Orion, younger by 6 minutes, approached the world with fierce determination, refusing to accept defeat even in simple tasks like grasping toys. One evening, as she finished feeding the twins, Zara received an unexpected email. A former patient from Chicago, now living in Miami, had heard she was practicing in Atlanta. His daughter needed the specialized procedure Zara had pioneered, and he wanted only the best. "This is how we begin," Zara told her sleeping sons that night. "One patient at a time, one success at a time, we'll build something so magnificent that when we finally return to Chicago, your father will understand exactly what his suspicion cost him." The boys slept on, innocent of the plans forming in their mother's mind. But as she watched them, Zara felt the last pieces of her old life fall away. She was no longer Mrs. Drake, the betrayed wife. She was Dr. Zara Phoenix, mother of Atlas and Orion, and she had a legacy to build. Atlanta's summer heat settled around the guest house like a protective embrace, while inside, a new dynasty was taking its first breaths. The Phoenix family was rising, and their ascent was just beginning. Chapter 4. Building an Empire. While Kingston Drake believed he had destroyed her, Zara Phoenix was methodically constructing the foundation of her revenge, one calculated move at a time. The first year in Atlanta passed in a whirlwind of surgical innovations and midnight feedings, each day a careful balance between nurturing her growing sons and rebuilding her shattered career. Georgia Medical Center became the launching pad for her renaissance. Dr. James Reynolds hadn't just given her a position, he'd given her a platform. Within 6 months of the twins' birth, Zara had developed a revolutionary approach to brainstem surgery that caught the attention of the medical community worldwide. "You're not just operating," Dr. Reynolds told her after watching her perform a particularly challenging procedure. "You're rewriting the textbooks." He paused, watching her expertly close the patient's incision. "Kingston Drake thought he could erase you from medicine. Instead, he's forced you to evolve beyond anything you might have become in Chicago." The twins grew from helpless newborns into curious infants, their personalities becoming more distinct with each passing day. Atlas, with his mother's analytical mind, would spend hours examining his toys, methodically testing each function as if conducting miniature experiments. Orion approached everything with boundless energy and determination, treating each milestone as a challenge to be conquered. Their first birthday celebration, hosted in the Reynolds' expansive garden, drew Atlanta's medical elite. Jasmine had insisted on making it a statement event. "If Kingston's watching," she said, arranging elaborate centerpieces, "let him see what he's missing." The party made the society pages, not in Chicago, but in Atlanta's equally influential social circles. The photographs showed Zara, elegant in a custom designer dress, holding her sons while surrounded by Georgia's most prominent physicians. The caption noted her recent surgical innovations and the twins' striking resemblance to their mother. If Kingston saw the pictures, he never showed any reaction. By 18 months, the boys were walking, their first steps captured on video by an ever-present Jasmine. Atlas took his time, studying others walking before attempting it himself. When he finally took his first steps, they were confident and sure. Orion, in contrast, threw himself into walking with characteristic determination, falling countless times, but refusing to give up until he mastered it. "They're going to be brilliant," Dr. Torres predicted during their 2-year checkup. The experimental procedure not only saved their lives, it seems to have enhanced their development. She showed Zara the charts, pointing out how both boys consistently scored above average in cognitive and physical assessments. The guest house had long since been transformed into a proper home, but Zara knew it was time for more. Using the proceeds from her first year of surgeries and consulting work, she purchased a historic mansion in Buckhead, just 3 streets over from Jasmine. The renovation became her second full-time job, transforming the classic Southern architecture into a modern testament to her success. The Phoenix Nest, Jasmine dubbed it, watching the contractors install state-of-the-art security systems and smart home technology. Rising from the ground up, just like everything else you've built. The home's crowning feature was the Twins' Wing, a carefully designed space that encouraged both learning and imagination. The constellation mural from their first nursery was recreated on an even grander scale, now spanning an entire corridor. Their separate bedrooms reflected their growing personalities. Atlases filled with books and educational toys. Orion's equipped with climbing structures and activity centers. But it was Zara's study that held the seeds of her ultimate plan. Behind its elegant wooden panels, she maintained meticulous records of everything Kingston had done during their separation. Every cancelled contract, every withdrawn offer, every whispered rumor, all carefully documented and dated. The evidence of his systematic destruction of her Chicago life would become the blueprint for her eventual revenge. Professional success followed personal growth. Zara's innovative surgical techniques attracted attention from medical device manufacturers. When she identified flaws in existing neurosurgical tools, she didn't just complain, she designed better ones. Her first patent for a minimally invasive brainstem retractor was approved just before the twins' 3rd birthday. "You should start your own practice," Dr. Reynolds suggested during a hospital board meeting. "Georgia Medical will back you. We've seen what you can do. And frankly, you've outgrown just being an attending surgeon." The idea took root. While Kingston believed he had confined her to obscurity in Atlanta, Zara began laying the groundwork for what would become Phoenix Medical Innovations. She hired the best medical architects to design a state-of-the-art facility, incorporating every lesson she'd learned from years of surgery. The twins, now approaching 4, watched the construction site with fascination from the safety of their custom-designed playground. "Mama's building something special," she told them, watching Atlas methodically stack blocks while Orion fearlessly scaled the climbing frame. "Something that will change everything." Private schools came calling as the twins neared preschool age. The prestigious Wellington Academy, known for its advanced curriculum and influential alumni, offered both boys early admission. "Their test scores are extraordinary," the headmaster explained during a private tour. "And frankly, Dr. Phoenix, having your sons here would be an honor for our institution." The twins thrived at Wellington, their different approaches to learning complementing each other perfectly. Atlas absorbed knowledge like a sponge, often asking questions that stunned his teachers. Orion's determination made him a natural leader, organizing his classmates and tackling group projects with infectious enthusiasm. "They're so different," their primary teacher observed during a parent conference, "yet they work together seamlessly. Atlas plans, Orion executes. They're quite remarkable." Zara watched her sons grow with fierce pride and careful documentation. Every achievement, every milestone was recorded not just in the traditional baby books, but in a separate file marked for Kingston. One day, he would see everything he had missed, everything he had thrown away with his unfounded suspicions. Phoenix Medical Innovations opened its doors on the twins' 5th birthday. The timing wasn't coincidental. Zara wanted the date to mark both the fulfillment of her professional dreams and her dedication to the sons who had given her the strength to rebuild. The facility was unlike anything Atlanta had seen. 6 operating rooms equipped with cutting-edge technology, a research wing dedicated to developing new surgical tools, and a rehabilitation center that attracted patients from across the country. But it was the pediatric wing that truly set it apart. A space designed with input from child psychologists to make medical care less frightening for young patients. "This isn't just a medical center," she told the gathered press during the opening ceremony. "This is a testament to what's possible when you refuse to let setbacks define you." The twins stood beside her during the ribbon cutting, their matching suits and confident smiles capturing hearts and headlines. Success bred success. Phoenix Medical Innovations became the most sought-after neurological center in the Southeast. Zara's surgical techniques were taught in medical schools. Her patents generated millions in licensing fees, and her waiting list grew so long that she had to hire additional surgeons just to keep up with demand. The twins, now 6 years old, had grown into extraordinary boys. Atlas's analytical mind found expression in advanced mathematics and science, while Orion's determination drove him to excel in both academics and athletics. Together, they were the pride of Wellington Academy, their achievements adding to the growing legend of the Phoenix family. "Your boys are fighters," Jasmine had said in those first days, watching them in the hospital incubator. Now, 6 years later, they were more than fighters. They were survivors, achievers, living proof that Kingston's attempt to destroy their family had only made them stronger. One evening, as Zara helped the boys with their homework in her study, an alert popped up on her tablet. A financial news notification about Drake Ventures. Kingston's company was struggling, losing ground to newer, more innovative firms. The article mentioned his desperate search for game-changing medical technology investments. Atlas, always observant, noticed her slight smile. "What is it, Mum?" Zara looked at her sons. Atlas with his thoughtful eyes, Orion with his determined set of his jaw, and felt the final pieces of her plan falling into place. Just some interesting news, my loves. Sometimes karma works in perfect circles. That night, after the twins were asleep, Zara opened a file on her computer she hadn't touched in years. Inside were detailed plans for a neural interface patent, technology she had developed during late nights after the twins' birth, but had kept in reserve, waiting for the perfect moment. Kingston Drake was looking for a game-changing medical technology investment. Soon, he would discover that what he needed most was in the hands of the woman he had discarded, the mother of the sons he had denied. The time for the next phase of her plan was approaching. As she worked late into the night, updating the patent documentation, Zara smiled at the framed photo on her desk, herself and the twins at the opening of Phoenix Medical Innovations. They were no longer the desperate exiles who had fled Chicago 6 years ago. They were a force to be reckoned with, and Kingston Drake was about to learn exactly what his paranoia and pride had cost him. In their rooms down the hall, Atlas and Orion slept peacefully, unaware that they were about to become part of their mother's masterpiece of revenge. But first, Zara had one more card to play. A return to Chicago that would shake the foundations of everything Kingston had built. The empire she had constructed in Atlanta wasn't just a success story, it was a weapon, carefully forged and patiently honed. And now, it was time to use it. Chapter 5. The Perfect Opportunity. The autumn sun cast long shadows across Zara's mahogany desk as she reviewed the latest financial reports from Phoenix Medical Innovations. 6 years of calculated moves had transformed her exile into an empire, but today's news promised something even sweeter than success, the perfect opportunity for revenge. Drake Ventures is looking to invest in medical technology, Jasmine announced, striding into Zara's private office without knocking. They had long since abandoned such formalities. She tossed a tablet onto the desk, its screen displaying financial headlines that made Zara's heart race. Kingston's company is losing ground to newer firms. He's desperate for a game-changing investment. Zara's fingers traced the screen, a smile playing on her lips. The neural interface patent, her masterpiece, developed during countless nights after the twins' bedtime, was exactly what Kingston needed to save his company. Sometimes karma works in perfect circles, she murmured, pulling up the patent documentation on her computer. The headlines told a story of desperation. Drake Ventures had missed several key technological advances in the medical sector, their conservative investment strategy leaving them behind in a rapidly evolving market. Kingston's once mighty empire was showing cracks, and his investors were getting nervous. He's holding an investment conference next month in Chicago, Jasmine continued, settling into one of the custom leather chairs. Every major medical technology company will be there, pitching their innovations. She paused, watching her friend carefully. Including Phoenix Medical, if we want. Zara stood, walking to the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked her medical center's sprawling campus. From this height, she could see patients entering the state-of-the-art facility, each one a testament to her success. Have you seen the latest trial results for the neural interface? Jasmine nodded. 98% success rate in preliminary testing. It's revolutionary, Zara. The ability to bypass damaged neural pathways, restore movement to paralyzed limbs. It's going to change lives. And make billions, Zara added softly, especially for whoever holds the patent rights. She turned back to her friend, her expression calculated. Did you know Kingston's biggest investor is threatening to pull out? Ashcroft Industries has been making noise about modern leadership and innovative thinking. Victoria Ashcroft's father, Jasmine recalled, the woman Kingston was seen with the night you left Chicago. The very same. Zara returned to her desk, pulling up more documents on her computer. Victoria's been pushing for her father to diversify their investments. She thinks Kingston's too conservative, too stuck in old ways of thinking. A smile curved her lips. She's not wrong. The plan had been forming in Zara's mind for years, each piece carefully positioned like chess pieces on a board. The neural interface patent wasn't just a medical breakthrough. It was a weapon, one that could either save Drake Ventures or destroy it, depending on how Kingston played his hand. "I've had our legal team preparing for this," she revealed, opening a secure folder on her computer. Every possible scenario, every potential move Kingston might make when he realizes who holds the patent. "We're not just going to attend that conference, Jas. We're going to own it." Jasmine leaned forward, her eyes widening as she read through the documents. "You've thought of everything, the presentation, the legal framework, even the media strategy." She looked up at her friend with newfound appreciation. "How long have you been planning this?" "Since the day he threw us out," Zara admitted. "Every success, every breakthrough, every patent we've filed, they were all leading to this. The neural interface is just the final piece." A knock at the door interrupted their conversation. Atlas and Orion's nanny, Ms. Thompson, entered with an apologetic smile. "I'm sorry to interrupt, Doctor Phoenix, but the boys are asking about dinner. They've finished their homework and want to know if you'll be joining them in the family dining room." Zara checked her watch. Nearly 7. She'd been so caught up in planning, she'd lost track of time. "Tell them I'll be there in 20 minutes, and Ms. Thompson, make sure they wear proper dinner attire. We have something special to discuss tonight." After the nanny left, Jasmine raised an eyebrow. "You're going to tell them?" "They're old enough to understand," Zara said, gathering her materials. "And they need to be prepared. Going back to Chicago means facing questions about their father. I won't let Kingston blindside them the way he blindsided me." The family dining room of the Phoenix mansion was a warm, intimate space, despite its grandeur. Atlas and Orion sat at their usual places, impeccably dressed in matching navy blazers. At 6, they were already showing signs of the men they would become. Atlas thoughtful and analytical, Orion fierce and determined. "Mom!" Orion jumped up as she entered, always the more expressive of the two. "Ms. Thompson said you have something important to tell us." Atlas remained seated, but his dark eyes tracked her movements with keen interest. "Is it about the neural interface patent? I saw the trial results on your tablet this morning." Zara smiled, taking her place at the head of the table. Of course, Atlas had noticed. Very little escaped his observation. "Yes, partly. But it's also about something else. Something about our past and our future." Over a dinner of their favorite foods, Zara carefully explained their impending return to Chicago. She watched their reactions closely, Atlas processing the information with characteristic thoroughness, Orion's emotions playing openly across his face. "Kingston Drake is your biological father," she told them, her voice steady. "He made a terrible mistake 6 years ago, choosing to believe lies instead of trusting in our family. But his mistake gave us something precious, the chance to build everything we have here in Atlanta." "Is that why we're going to Chicago?" Atlas asked, his young mind already connecting the dots. "Because of the neural interface?" Zara nodded, proud of his quick understanding. "Drake Ventures needs our technology. They don't know it yet, but their future depends on the patent I've developed. We're going to attend an investment conference and show them exactly what they threw away 6 years ago." Orion's face darkened. "I don't want to meet him. He hurt you, Mom. He didn't want us." "No, my love." Zara reached across the table to take his hand. "This isn't about him wanting us anymore. This is about showing him what he lost. You boys are my greatest achievement. Brilliant, strong, and kind. Everything I've built, I built for you." The twins exchanged looks, having one of their silent conversations that never ceased to amaze her. Finally, Atlas spoke for both of them. "We'll help you, Mom. Whatever you need us to do." Jasmine, who had been quietly observing from her seat, raised her water glass. To the Phoenix family, rising higher than ever. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of preparation. Zara's legal team worked overtime, ensuring every detail of the patent presentation was perfect. The public relations department crafted a media strategy that would maximize the impact of Phoenix Medical's appearance at the conference. The twins threw themselves into preparation with characteristic dedication. Atlas memorized every detail of the neural interface technology, able to explain its function in terms that belied his 6 years. Orion practiced his most charming smile, understanding instinctively that their public appearance would be crucial to their mother's plan. One evening, as Zara reviewed the final presentation materials in her study, she found herself staring at an old photo, her wedding day with Kingston, both of them smiling, unaware of how it would all end. She opened her desk drawer and pulled out the file marked "For Kingston," adding another document to its thick contents. "You thought you could erase us," she whispered to the photo. "Instead, you gave us the motivation to become something far greater than we might have been. And now, you need us more than you know." The Chicago Investment Conference was scheduled for the first week of December. As Zara booked their flights and hotel suites at the Four Seasons, she allowed herself a moment of reflection. 6 years ago, she had fled Chicago in tears, pregnant and betrayed. Now she would return in triumph with her sons at her side and a patent that could make or break the man who had discarded them. "Ms. Thompson," she called to the nanny before heading to bed, "please ensure the boys' winter wardrobes are ready. Chicago winters are quite different from Atlanta's." In their rooms, Atlas and Orion slept peacefully, unaware of the storm about to break over their lives. But Zara knew they were ready. They were phoenixes, after all, and phoenixes didn't just survive fire, they emerged from it stronger than ever. The neural interface patent documents sat on her bedside table, their potential for both salvation and destruction neatly bound in legal terminology. Kingston Drake was about to learn a valuable lesson about trust, family, and the power of underestimating a woman scorned. As she prepared for bed, Zara's phone buzzed with a news alert. Drake Ventures' stock had dropped another 3 points. The perfect opportunity wasn't just approaching, it was accelerating. Soon, very soon, Kingston Drake would understand exactly what his paranoia had cost him. And Zara Phoenix, with her brilliant sons and revolutionary patent, would be there to witness every moment of his realization. Chapter 6. Return to Chicago. The Chicago skyline hadn't changed, but Zara had. Standing at the floor-to-ceiling windows of their Four Seasons presidential suite, she watched snowflakes dance against the glass, each one a crystalline reminder of that stormy night 6 years ago when she'd fled the city with nothing but broken dreams and unborn twins. "Mom," Atlas called softly from behind her, "your hands are shaking." Zara hadn't even noticed, but her son was right. She unclenched her fingers from the silk curtains, turning to face her boys. They stood side by side in custom-tailored Tom Ford suits, 6 years of careful grooming evident in every perfectly pressed line and polished button. Atlas, analytical even in his stance, watched her with knowing eyes that missed nothing. Orion, vibrating with barely contained energy, looked ready to take on the world. "You both look perfect," she said, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions in her chest. The boys' suits had been chosen with meticulous care. Midnight blue that highlighted their coffee-colored skin, cuts that emphasized their athletic builds, and subtle golden phoenix cufflinks that declared their identity to anyone paying attention. Jasmine emerged from the suite's second bedroom, resplendent in a designer dress that complemented the twins' suits. "The investment conference starts in 2 hours, she announced, checking her diamond-studded watch. "Kingston's opening speech is scheduled for 9. "He doesn't know we're coming," Orion asked, his young face fierce with anticipation. "No, my love." Zara smoothed an imaginary wrinkle from his jacket. "Phoenix Medical Innovations was registered under our holding company name. He'll have no warning until we walk into that ballroom." The drive to Drake Tower was surreal. Chicago's winter wrapped around the buildings like a familiar blanket, but everything felt different through the windows of their chauffeur-driven Rolls-Royce. 6 years ago, she'd left in a taxi, tears freezing on her cheeks. Today, she returned with an empire of her own. "There's going to be press," Jasmine reminded them as they approached the towering glass structure. "Remember the strategy: confident but not arrogant, successful but not showy." Atlas straightened his already perfect tie. "We know, Aunt Jasmine. We've practiced." "We've got this, Mom," Orion added, reaching for her hand. "We're phoenixes." The lobby of Drake Tower hummed with activity. Investment bankers, technology executives, and media personalities crowded the security checkpoints, all eager to witness what promised to be the medical technology event of the year. Heads turned as Zara's group passed through the exclusive VIP entrance, their presence commanding attention without seeking it. "Dr. Phoenix?" A young reporter broke away from the press line, her eyes wide with recognition. "Dr. Zara Phoenix of Phoenix Medical Innovations? Would you comment on the rumors about your revolutionary neural interface technology?" Zara's smile was practiced perfection. "All will be revealed during our presentation, I assure you." She drew the twins closer. "My sons and I are looking forward to sharing our innovations with the medical community." The reporter's eyes darted between Zara and the boys, recognition dawning. The resemblance was unmistakable. The same high cheekbones, the same confident bearing, the same intensity in their eyes. Before she could ask more questions, Jasmine smoothly guided them toward the elevators. "First blood," she whispered as the doors closed. "That story will be trending before we reach the conference floor." The investment conference occupied the entire 47th floor of Drake Tower, the same floor where 6 years ago Kingston had hosted charity galas and board meetings, the same floor where he had first accused her of betrayal. Now she returned, not as his wife, but as his potential savior or destroyer. They timed their entrance perfectly. Kingston was mid-speech when the ballroom doors opened, his practiced charm working the crowd as he outlined Drake Ventures' vision for the future. He faltered mid-sentence as whispers rippled through the audience, heads turning to watch Zara Phoenix and her sons make their entrance. The moment Kingston's eyes found them felt like electricity crackling through the room. 6 years had added silver to his temples, but hadn't diminished his presence. He stood frozen at the podium, his carefully crafted speech forgotten as he stared at the family he had discarded. Atlas and Orion moved in perfect synchronization, flanking their mother like young lions. They had practiced this moment, but nothing could have prepared them for the raw emotion of seeing their biological father for the first time. Atlas's analytical mind catalogued every detail of the man who had rejected them, while Orion's fierce protectiveness radiated from every pore. "As I was saying," Kingston recovered quickly, though his knuckles were white on the podium, "Drake Ventures is committed to identifying and investing in revolutionary medical technologies that will shape the future of healthcare." Zara guided her sons to their reserved table near the front, every eye in the room following their movement. The whispers grew louder. Speculation about their identity, their presence, their purpose. The Phoenix family had arrived, and the carefully ordered world of Kingston Drake would never be the same. "He's afraid," Atlas whispered, his observation keen as always. "Look at his left hand, micro-tremors. His breathing pattern has changed too." Orion's jaw tightened. "Good." Throughout Kingston's speech, Zara maintained her professional mask, but her mind raced with memories. This room, these people, Many of them had been at her wedding, had attended her baby shower, had turned their backs when Kingston spread his lies. Now they watched with hungry eyes as the prodigal wife returned, more powerful than ever. When Kingston finished speaking, the room erupted in polite applause. He stepped down from the podium, clearly intending to approach their table, but was intercepted by Victoria Ashcroft. Even from a distance, Zara could read the tension in their interaction. Victoria's father, Harrison Ashcroft, joined them, his expression grave as he gestured toward the Phoenix family. "Phase 1 complete," Jasmine murmured, sipping champagne. "They're rattled." The morning sessions passed in a blur of presentations and networking. Zara worked the room with practiced ease, her sons demonstrating the poise and charm she had carefully cultivated. Atlas impressed veteran surgeons with his grasp of medical technology, while Orion's natural charisma drew people in like moths to flame. "They're extraordinary," one board member commented to Zara. "You must be very proud." "They're my greatest achievement," she replied, loud enough for Kingston to hear from his nearby position. "Everything I've built, I built for them." The tension built throughout the day, leading to Phoenix Medical's afternoon presentation slot. As Zara prepared to take the stage, she felt Kingston's eyes burning into her. He had spent the day watching them, his expression a mix of shock, anger, and something else. Regret? "Ready?" she asked her sons, who would join her for part of the presentation. Atlas nodded, tablet in hand. "The neural interface simulation is queued up." "Let's show him what he lost," Orion added, his young voice fierce with pride. As they took the stage, Zara caught a glimpse of their reflection in the presentation screen, a powerful woman flanked by her brilliant sons, all three bearing the unmistakable stamp of success. 6 years ago, Kingston had tried to destroy them. Instead, he had forged them into something unstoppable. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the hushed room, "Phoenix Medical Innovations is proud to present a breakthrough in neural interface technology that will revolutionize the treatment of spinal cord injuries and neurological disorders." In the front row, Kingston Drake sat rigidly, watching the family he had thrown away prepare to either save or destroy his company. The choice would soon be his, and Zara intended to make it the hardest decision of his life. The lights dimmed, the presentation began, and the next phase of Zara's carefully orchestrated revenge unfolded exactly as planned. The Phoenix family had returned to Chicago not with a whimper, but with a roar that would shake the foundations of everything Kingston had built. Chapter 7. The Chess Game. The neural interface patent could revolutionize paralysis treatment. Zara's voice carried across the hushed conference room, each word calculated for maximum impact. Her hand gestured gracefully toward the holographic display where a 3D model of the device rotated slowly, its intricate components highlighted in shimmering gold. "The question is, can you afford to let your competitors get it first?" Kingston sat in the front row, his face a masterpiece of controlled tension. 6 years of business acumen couldn't hide the slight tremor in his left hand, or the way his jaw clenched every time one of the twins spoke during the presentation. Atlas handled the technical specifications with a precision that made veteran surgeons lean forward in their seats, while Orion's passionate description of potential patient outcomes had several board members dabbing at their eyes. "Our preliminary trials showed a 99% success rate in restoring neural function," Atlas explained, his young voice steady as he manipulated the holographic display. The data streams filled the air around him, numbers and charts dancing under his confident control. But the true breakthrough lies in the adaptive learning algorithm. From her position at the podium, Zara watched Kingston watching their son. The resemblance was undeniable. Atlas had his father's analytical mind, though tempered by his mother's compassion. Every perfectly articulated word must have been like a dagger to Kingston's heart, a reminder of what he had thrown away. Victoria Ashcroft shifted in her seat, leaning over to whisper something to her father. Harrison Ashcroft's expression remained neutral, but his eyes never left the neural interface display. As Drake Ventures' largest investor, he understood exactly what this technology could mean for the company's future. The market potential is unprecedented, Orion took over seamlessly from his brother, pulling up a new set of projections. His natural charisma filled the room as he outlined the global impact. Conservative estimates place first-year revenues at $3 billion, with exponential growth in subsequent years as applications expand beyond spinal cord injuries. A ripple of excited murmurs swept through the audience. Kingston's hands tightened on his armrests. Those were exactly the numbers Drake Ventures needed to stay afloat. The company's stock had dropped another 2 points during the morning sessions, and rumors of a hostile takeover were already circulating. "Of course," Zara smiled, her designer suit gleaming under the presentation lights. "Phoenix Medical Innovations isn't just offering a product. We're offering a partnership that could reshape the future of neurological treatment. The question is, are you ready for that future?" The subtle emphasis on "you" made Kingston's eye twitch. He recognized the game being played. Every word, every gesture, every flawless presentation slide was another move on the chessboard. Zara wasn't just showcasing technology, she was orchestrating his public reckoning. "We'll now open the floor for questions," Jasmine announced from her position near the door. "Please note, the detailed technical specifications will only be shared with serious investment partners under strict NDAs. Harrison Ashcroft's hand rose first. "Dr. Phoenix, your reputation in neurosurgery is well established, but this represents a significant leap in innovation. How did you achieve such remarkable results in just 6 years? Zara's smile never wavered. "When one door closes, Mr. Ashcroft, others open. My exile from Chicago," she paused deliberately, letting the word hang in the air, "provided the perfect opportunity to focus on revolutionary approaches rather than conventional methods." Kingston's face darkened at the reference to her departure, but before he could respond, Victoria Ashcroft asked another question. "The adaptive learning algorithm your son mentioned, is it compatible with existing neural monitoring systems?" "Atlas, would you like to address that?" Zara stepped back, allowing her son to take center stage. Atlas launched into a detailed technical explanation that had the room's engineers scribbling notes frantically. His command of the material was extraordinary, his young voice carrying the weight of authority far beyond his years. In the front row, Kingston's expression flickered between pride and pain. Pride in a son who was clearly brilliant, pain at the realization that he had no part in developing that brilliance. "The integration capabilities are fascinating," Victoria commented, shooting a pointed look at Kingston. "Exactly the kind of innovation some companies have been lacking recently." The subtle dig wasn't lost on anyone. Drake Ventures' conservative approach to medical technology had cost them dearly in recent years. Now, watching the Phoenix family demonstrate exactly what they had missed, the company's leadership seemed to physically shrink in their seats. A senior board member raised his hand next. "Dr. Phoenix, your sons are remarkably well versed in this technology. Have they been involved in its development?" "Atlas and Orion have been integral to every aspect of Phoenix Medical's success," Zara replied, her voice carrying maternal pride and professional authority in equal measure. "They represent the future of medical innovation, bright, fearless, and unburdened by outdated thinking." Kingston finally broke his silence, "And their father?" Has he had any input in their remarkable development? The room went deadly quiet. Zara's smile turned arctic. Their father made his choices 6 years ago, Mr. Drake. He chose pride over truth, suspicion over trust. The results of those choices are standing before you today. Orion stepped forward, his young face fierce with protective instinct. Our mother gave us everything we needed. Some people throw away precious things because they're too blind to see their value. The pointed comment hit its mark. Kingston's face flushed, but before he could respond, Harrison Ashcroft stood up. I believe we've seen enough. Dr. Phoenix, would you and your sons be available for a private meeting? This afternoon, the Ashcroft board would like to discuss investment options. Of course, Zara replied smoothly. Though I should mention that several other investment groups have expressed interest. Time is rather of the essence. The message was clear. The clock was ticking for Drake Ventures. The neural interface patent could save Kingston's company or become the instrument of its destruction, depending on how he played the next few moves. As the presentation concluded, Atlas and Orion flanked their mother with practiced precision. The three of them made a striking picture. Successful, confident, and completely independent of the man who had once tried to destroy them. The audience burst into enthusiastic applause, several investors already reaching for their phones to contact their boards. Kingston remained seated as the room began to clear, his eyes fixed on the family he had lost. The neural interface specifications still floated in the air, a tantalizing promise of salvation or doom. Zara met his gaze steadily, letting him see exactly what his paranoia had cost him, not just a wife and sons, but a future that could have been shared. Remarkable presentation, Victoria Ashcroft said loudly, approaching the podium. I'd love to discuss this over dinner, Doctor. Phoenix? Perhaps at Gibson's? I believe that used to be a favorite spot for Drake Ventures celebrations. The reference to the restaurant where Kingston had often hosted company victories was deliberate. He visibly flinched, remembering perhaps how often Zara had sat beside him during those celebrations, supporting his dreams while quietly building her own. We'd be delighted, Zara replied, her hand resting protectively on Atlas's shoulder. Though I'm afraid we'll have to make it an early dinner. The boys have a video conference with their advanced physics tutor this evening. As they gathered their presentation materials, Zara allowed herself a moment of pure satisfaction. The chess pieces were all in position, Kingston's company desperate for innovation, the Ashcrofts clearly impressed, and the twins' brilliance on full display. The next move would be Kingston's, but she had already ensured that every possible choice would cost him dearly. Mom, Atlas whispered as they prepared to leave the conference room. His blood pressure must be dangerously high. The carotid artery pulsation is quite pronounced. Orion grinned. Good thing we're in a building full of doctors. Zara guided her sons toward the exit, their security detail falling into formation around them. Behind them, she could hear Kingston arguing with Victoria Ashcroft, their heated whispers carrying hints of panic and frustration. The game was progressing exactly as she had planned. The next phase would begin over dinner, where the true battle for control would unfold. But for now, Zara savored the sight of her sons walking tall through the building that should have been their inheritance, proving with every step that they had never needed it or Kingston to succeed. The chess game was far from over, but the opening moves had been perfectly executed. Kingston Drake was about to learn that in both business and revenge, the Queen was the most powerful piece on the board. Chapter 8. Truth and Consequences. Thunder cracked across Chicago's skyline as Zara stood in the historic Drake Medical Library, her heels clicking against marble floors that had witnessed decades of medical history. Behind her, a wall of screens displayed patient data, brain scans, and research protocols. 6 years of secrets about to shatter Kingston Drake's carefully constructed reality. Dr. Carter wasn't just my obstetrician. Zara's voice carried through the wood-paneled room, addressing the hastily assembled board of directors. He was developing a revolutionary prenatal procedure that would change the course of medical history. Those suspicious 3-hour appointments your CEO was so concerned about. They were saving your future heirs' lives. Kingston sat rigid in his chair as Zara activated the central display. Holographic images filled the air, neural scans of developing twins, showing dangerous anomalies that would have caused catastrophic brain damage without intervention. "Atlas, would you like to explain what we're seeing?" Zara turned to her son. The 6-year-old stepped forward, his presence commanding despite his youth. "These are our neural patterns at 16 weeks gestation." He indicated specific areas with practiced precision. The developmental anomalies here, and here would have resulted in severe cognitive impairment without Dr. Carter's experimental treatment. Orion joined his brother, his fierce, protective energy filling the room. Each of those secret meetings Kingston was having us followed to. They were life-saving procedures, every suspicious phone call, emergency monitoring of neural development. Victoria Ashcroft leaned forward, her eyes sharp. And the private dinners, the ones Kingston used to justify his accusations. Research protocols. Dr. Carter himself stepped from the shadows, his distinguished presence adding weight to the revelation. We were pioneering a technique that would revolutionize prenatal neural development. Those dinner meetings were spent analyzing data, refining procedures, saving lives. The screens shifted to show another set of scans. The twins' current neural patterns, their extraordinary development evident even to untrained eyes. "The procedure didn't just save us," Atlas continued, pulling up comparison data. "It enhanced neural plasticity, accelerated cognitive development, the very capabilities Kingston now desperately needs for his neural interface patent. They grew from the treatment he condemned." Kingston's face had gone ashen. "The appointments, the meetings, were all documented." Zara's voice could have frozen flame. She pressed a button, and the screens filled with medical records, research protocols, and regulatory approvals. Every procedure, every consultation, every breakthrough, all meticulously recorded. You never asked to see any of it. Harrison Ashcroft stood, his imposing figure casting long shadows. "Are you telling us, Doctor?" "Phoenix, that Drake Ventures drove away groundbreaking medical research because its CEO was too jealous to investigate the truth." "Not just drove it away." Orion's young voice carried his mother's steel. "He nearly destroyed it. If the procedure had failed because of his interference—" "But it didn't fail," Atlas cut in, bringing up new data. "Instead, it became the foundation for the neural interface technology that could save millions of lives, the same technology your company now desperately needs." The boardroom erupted in chaos. Board members demanded explanations, legal counsel frantically reviewed documents, and Kingston Drake sat frozen, watching his carefully constructed accusations crumble in the face of irrefutable evidence. "The neural regeneration protocols," Dr. Carter explained, highlighting specific data points, "were developed during those suspicious late-night meetings. Every breakthrough that could save Drake Ventures now was born during the appointments Kingston condemned." Victoria's voice cut through the noise. "And the financial implications? The patent rights? All belong to Phoenix Medical." Zara smiled, the expression razor-sharp. "Every innovation, every potential application, every future development, controlled by the woman you drove out of Chicago. Ironic, isn't it?" Lightning illuminated the library windows as Kingston finally found his voice. "I didn't know. I never thought." "No, you didn't think." Atlas's clinical assessment cut deeper than anger could have. "You didn't investigate, you didn't question. You let emotion override logic, prejudice override science. In medical terms, we call that a catastrophic failure of judgment. Orion moved to stand beside his brother, their united front a living testament to what Kingston had thrown away. You didn't just reject our mother, you rejected scientific truth. And now that same truth will decide your company's fate. The evidence was overwhelming. Years of research, mountains of data, all proving that every moment Kingston had twisted into betrayal had actually been steps toward medical revolution. His jealousy hadn't just cost him his family, it had blinded him to innovations that could have secured his company's future years ago. The board will need to know everything. Harrison Ashcroft's voice was grave. Every detail of how Drake Ventures lost access to groundbreaking medical technology because of personal vendettas and poor leadership. Oh, they'll know. Jasmine stepped forward, holding up her tablet. The full story is already breaking across major news outlets. Drake Ventures CEO's jealousy costs company billions in medical innovation. The markets will open to this tomorrow. Kingston staggered to his feet, reaching toward the twins. Boys, please, if I had known... Known what? Orion's voice cracked like the thunder outside. That our mother is brilliant? That those appointments were saving our lives? That your paranoia nearly destroyed breakthrough medical research? Which truth would have made you behave like an actual father? Atlas's response was colder, more calculated. The data was always there, Mr. Drake. You chose not to see it. Now you get to live with the consequences of willful blindness. The truth had finally been revealed, and its impact was devastating. Kingston Drake hadn't just lost his family 6 years ago. He had driven away innovations that could have transformed medical science. Now those same innovations would decide his company's fate, wielded by the woman he had wrongly condemned. As the storm raged outside, the Phoenix family stood triumphant in the library that should have recorded their humiliation. Instead, it witnessed their vindication, their brilliance, and the complete destruction of every lie Kingston had used to justify his betrayal. The truth was out. The consequences were just beginning. And the Phoenix family's rise from the ashes was about to change everything. Chapter 9. The Offer. The morning sun painted Drake Tower's executive floor in shades of gold, but the atmosphere inside Kingston's private office was anything but warm. Zara sat across from her former husband, her Chanel suit a stark contrast to his rumpled appearance. The night's emergency board meeting had clearly taken its toll. His collar was loose, his tie askew, and the morning's Chicago Tribune on his desk screamed headlines about Drake Ventures' leadership crisis. "Name your price!" Kingston's voice cracked with desperation. He pushed a folder across his custom mahogany desk, the same desk where he had once signed the orders freezing her accounts. "The company, the penthouse, anything. Just give me the patent rights." Zara didn't even glance at the folder. "Still trying to solve everything with money, Kingston. Some things can't be bought back. Trust, for instance, family, time with your sons." Outside the office, Atlas and Orion waited with Jasmine in the executive lounge. Through the glass walls, Zara could see Atlas analyzing stock tickers on his tablet, while Orion paced with characteristic energy. They were her masterpieces, living proof of what determination and love could accomplish. "The board is meeting again this afternoon," Kingston said, running a hand through his silver-streaked hair. "Victoria Ashcroft has called for a vote of no confidence. Without the neural interface patent, we'll lose Ashcroft Industries' backing. Everything I've built will collapse." "Everything you built?" Zara's laugh was crystalline and sharp. "Let's talk about building things, Kingston. While you were destroying my reputation, I was building a medical empire. While you were spreading lies about affairs, I was developing patents that will change millions of lives. And most importantly," her voice hardened, "while you were congratulating yourself on discarding us, I was raising our sons to be extraordinary men. Kingston's eyes drifted to the boys beyond the glass. They're remarkable. Atlas's grasp of the technology, Orion's presence, they're everything I could have. Don't, Zara cut him off. Don't you dare act paternal now. You had your chance 6 years ago. All you had to do was trust your wife, trust the mother of your children. Instead, you chose paranoia and pride. I made a mistake, Kingston's voice broke, the biggest mistake of my life. But please, Zara, the company, my father's legacy. Your father's legacy. Zara stood, walking to the window overlooking Chicago. Let me tell you about legacy, Kingston. Every time Atlas solves a complex medical equation, every time Orion inspires a room full of investors, that's legacy. Every patient who walks again because of our neural interface technology, every life changed by the innovations you were too blind to see, that's legacy. The door opened, and Victoria Ashcroft entered without knocking, tablet in hand. The Asian market's just opened. Drake Ventures stock is in free fall. We need an answer about the patent rights now. Kingston's hands shook as he reached for another folder. I'm prepared to offer controlling interest in Drake Ventures. 51% of all shares, full voting rights, seats on the board. You still don't understand. Zara turned from the window, her expression almost pitying. This isn't about shares or voting rights. This is about consequences. The same way you made me face consequences 6 years ago, now you face yours. Through the glass, she caught Atlas's eye. He nodded slightly. The signal that their counteroffer to Ashcroft Industries had been received and approved. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The neural interface patent is worth billions. Kingston tried again. Name your terms, anything. Anything? Zara's smile was dangerous. Then let's talk about what anything means, Kingston. 6 years ago, you gave me 1 hour to leave Chicago. You froze my accounts, blocked my hospital privileges, and destroyed my reputation. You turned our entire social circle against me with carefully crafted lies. And worst of all, her voice dropped to a whisper, you denied your own sons because you were too proud to ask questions, too arrogant to seek the truth. Victoria watched the exchange with barely concealed satisfaction. The board reconvenes at 2. Without a solid plan for the neural interface technology, I'm afraid decisions will have to be made about leadership. Kingston stood abruptly, his desperation finally breaking through. For God's sake, Zara, this is my life's work. Everything I've built, everything my father built before me, you'd destroy it all for revenge. Revenge, Zara laughed, the sound echoing off the modernist art pieces that lined his office. If I wanted revenge, Kingston, I would have sold the patent to your competitors. If I wanted revenge, I would have publicly revealed how you almost killed your own sons with your paranoid accusations. If I wanted revenge, she stepped closer, her voice deadly quiet, I would do to you exactly what you did to me, take everything you love and burn it to the ground. The office door opened again, and Orion entered without permission, his young face set with determination. Mom, the Ashcroft board just unanimously approved our terms. Atlas is finalizing the documentation now. Kingston sank back into his chair, the implications clear. You're selling to Ashcroft Industries directly, cutting Drake Ventures out completely. Not selling, Zara corrected. Merging. Phoenix Medical Innovations and Ashcroft Industries will form a new medical technology division, one that will make the neural interface technology available worldwide under the right leadership and vision. The board will never approve, Kingston began, but Victoria cut him off. The board already has, Kingston. While you were offering personal bribes, Dr. Phoenix was presenting a comprehensive global strategy to our executive committee, one that doesn't include Drake Ventures or you. Jasmine entered with Atlas, who carried a thick portfolio of legal documents. The boy's resemblance to his father was striking, but his confident bearing was all Zara. The merger documents are ready, Mum. Mr. Ashcroft's lawyers have approved all terms. Kingston stared at his son, this brilliant child who could have been his pride and joy, now orchestrating his professional demise. Atlas, son. I'm not your son, Atlas replied calmly. Biology doesn't make a father. Trust does. Love does. Actions do. You failed at all three. Orion moved to stand beside his brother, their united front a powerful statement. You had your chance with us. Mom gave us everything we needed. Love, support, opportunities. What did you give us except rejection? Zara watched her sons with fierce pride. They were handling this confrontation with more maturity than their father had shown in his entire life. The offer isn't negotiable, Kingston. By close of business today, Phoenix Ashcroft Medical Technologies will be announced to the world. Drake Ventures will be relegated to a footnote in corporate history, just like you relegated us to a footnote in your life. Please, Kingston's voice was barely a whisper. The company, it's all I have left. Now you know how it feels. Zara gathered her documents, gesturing for her sons to join her. To lose everything because of someone else's choices. The difference is, I built something better from the ashes. Let's see if you can do the same. As they prepared to leave, Atlas paused in the doorway. The neural interface technology could have been yours years ago. Mom tried to tell you about the research, about Dr. Carter's procedure. You chose not to listen. In science, we call that a critical error in judgment. Orion's parting shot was simpler, but no less devastating. Goodbye, Mr. Drake. Enjoy your consequences. The Phoenix family exited Kingston's office for the last time, leaving behind a broken man facing the ruins of his empire. Through the glass walls, they could see him slump over his desk, the weight of 6 years of mistakes finally crushing his carefully constructed world. Victoria followed them to the elevator, already discussing transition plans and press releases. But Zara's attention was on her sons, who walked tall and proud through the building that should have been their inheritance. They had never needed it. They had built something far greater with their mother's guidance and love. The elevator doors closed on the past, carrying the Phoenix family toward their future. Kingston Drake's offer had been exactly what she expected. Too little, too late, focused on money rather than meaning. Now he would learn the true cost of underestimating Zara Phoenix and the sons he had rejected. Some things, after all, were priceless. Chapter 10. Legacy Atlas and Orion stood beside their mother in Drake Ventures' legendary boardroom as she signed the final merger documents. The massive mahogany table, where countless deals had shaped Chicago's business landscape, now witnessed its most significant transaction: the birth of Phoenix Ashcroft Medical Technologies and the end of Kingston Drake's empire. Initial here, Harrison Ashcroft's lawyer indicated another line, his voice respectful. The entire room watched in hushed anticipation as Zara's Mont Blanc pen moved across the page with practiced elegance. And here, final signature on the last page, Dr. Phoenix. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Chicago's skyline stretched out like a kingdom-changing hands. The afternoon sun caught the neural interface prototype displayed on a pedestal near the head of the table, its revolutionary design a testament to what Kingston had thrown away 6 years ago. The board votes are unanimous, Victoria Ashcroft announced, reviewing the final tallies on her tablet. Phoenix Medical will acquire Drake Ventures, not as a partnership, but as a complete takeover. Kingston will be removed as CEO, effective immediately. Atlas studied the stock projections scrolling across his own device, his young face serious. Pre-market trading is already responding. Our shares are up 12% on speculation alone. The press release goes out in 10 minutes, Jasmine added from her position near the communications team. Every major financial network is standing by. This will be the business story of the year. Orion moved closer to his mother, his protective instincts on full display as Kingston entered the boardroom. Their biological father looked decades older than he had just days ago, his designer suit hanging loose on his frame, his eyes haunted by the weight of his mistakes. "The papers are signed," Zara informed him without looking up from the documents. "Your security clearance will be deactivated at close of business. Harrison's team will handle the transition." Kingston's voice cracked as he spoke. "The company, my father's legacy." "Legacy?" Atlas turned to face him, his words precise and cutting. "Let's discuss legacy, Mr. Drake. In the 6 years since you rejected us, Phoenix Medical has filed 28 patents, developed 3 revolutionary surgical procedures, and helped thousands of patients recover from conditions previously thought untreatable. That's legacy." Orion stepped forward, his fierce expression so like his mother's. "While you were hiding behind outdated business models, we were changing lives. The neural interface technology you desperately wanted, we developed that while you were too busy spreading lies about our mother." "Boys," Zara's voice held gentle warning. They subsided, moving back to flank her chair like young lions guarding their queen. She finally looked up at Kingston, her expression calm but resolute. "Your father's company died long before today, Kingston. It died the moment you chose paranoia over innovation, suspicion over trust. We're not destroying his legacy. We're transforming it into something greater." Harrison Ashcroft cleared his throat, his presence commanding attention. "The transition team is ready, Doctor. Phoenix, we've prepared statements for all major stakeholders, and our PR department has coordinated with Phoenix Medical's team for the global announcement." "Perfect." Zara stood, smoothing her designer suit. "Atlas, please share the updated technical specifications with the research division. Orion, you'll handle the initial press briefing with Victoria. It's time to show the world what Phoenix Ashcroft Medical Technologies will become." Kingston watched helplessly as his former boardroom transformed into command central for his company's absorption. Screens displayed real-time market reactions, press releases were finalized, and transition teams moved with military precision. His 6-year-old sons, the children he had rejected, now orchestrated the future of medical technology with confidence that put seasoned executives to shame. "They're extraordinary," Victoria observed, watching the twins work. Atlas's technical brilliance, Orion's natural leadership. Imagine what they could have been to Drake Ventures if you hadn't driven them away. "I didn't know," Kingston whispered, his eyes fixed on his sons. "The medical procedures, Doctor. Carter's research, ... "You didn't want to know," Zara corrected him. "You had your narrative, your suspicions, your pride. Now you have your consequences." A commotion at the doorway drew their attention. Dr. Carter himself entered, distinguished and composed despite the years that had passed. Kingston physically recoiled at the sight of the man he had once accused of destroying his marriage. "Dr. Phoenix," Carter smiled warmly, "the Medical Advisory Board is assembled and ready for your presentation on the neural interface expansion plans." "Thank you, James." Zara's use of his first name made Kingston flinch. "Atlas, would you like to handle the technical portion of the presentation? Your grasp of the neural pathway modifications is exceptional." Atlas nodded, gathering his materials with efficient grace. "The new applications for spinal cord regeneration are particularly promising. Orion and I have been analyzing the trial data, and the success rates are unprecedented." "My sons," Kingston started, taking a step toward them, but Orion's fierce glare stopped him cold. "We're not your sons." Orion's voice carried the weight of 6 years of absence. "Biology is just genetics. Family is built on trust, love, and presence. You failed at all 3. "The press conference begins in 20 minutes, Jasmine announced, checking her watch. "Zara, the markets close in an hour. If we want maximum impact for tomorrow's trading, we need to move now. The boardroom burst into coordinated activity. Atlas led a team of engineers toward the medical presentation, his young voice confident as he discussed complex neural pathways. Orion joined Victoria near the press area, reviewing talking points with natural charisma. Both boys moved through Kingston's former domain as if they had been born to lead it, which, in a cruel twist of fate, they had been. "Your security escort is waiting," Harrison informed Kingston quietly. "The board feels it would be best if you weren't present for the announcement." Kingston's shoulders slumped in defeat. "Zara, please. One chance to explain." "You had your chance," she replied without looking at him. 6 years ago, when I tried to tell you about the medical procedures, when I begged you to trust me, to believe in our family, you chose pride then. Now you choose consequences." As security prepared to escort Kingston from the building that had been his life's work, Atlas paused in his preparations. "Mr. Drake," he called, his voice carrying his mother's strength. "The Neural Interface project began as a way to save lives. It could have saved your company years ago if you'd only asked the right questions. In science, we call that tragic irony." Orion's parting shot was equally powerful. "Goodbye, Mr. Drake. We'll take good care of your father's company, better than you ever did." The boardroom doors closed behind Kingston Drake for the last time, leaving behind a room transformed by the family he had rejected. Screens displayed the countdown to the press announcement. Market tickers showed stock prices adjusting to rumors of the merger, and transition teams moved with purpose. Zara gathered her sons close, their matching suits and confident bearings a testament to everything they had built together. "Ready to change the world, my loves?" Atlas's smile was brilliant. "The neural interface technology is just the beginning, Mom. Wait until they see what else we've developed." Phoenix Ashcroft Medical Technologies, Orion tested the name proudly, has a nice ring to it. Victoria approached with the final press package. "Doctor, Phoenix, it's time. The world is waiting." Zara looked out over Chicago's skyline. The same view that had witnessed her exile 6 years ago now watched her triumph. Her sons stood tall beside her, their brilliance and determination lighting the path forward. Kingston had tried to destroy them, but instead he had forged them into something unstoppable. Legacy, after all, wasn't about maintaining the past. It was about building the future. And the Phoenix family's future was blindingly bright. The takeover was complete. The revenge was perfect. And the best part? It was only the beginning. Chapter 11. The Final Meeting. The winter sun cast long shadows through Kingston Drake's office windows as he watched his sons through the glass walls. Atlas and Orion waited in the executive lounge with their nanny, their matching Burberry coats and serious expressions making them look like miniature business titans, which he realized with a surge of bitter pride they had become. "They're beautiful boys," Kingston said softly as Zara entered his office for their final meeting. "They have your spirit." "They have everything you threw away," Zara replied, setting her Hermes briefcase on what had once been his desk, now cleared of personal items, awaiting its new occupant. "Your loss, Kingston. Your very, very big loss." The morning's Wall Street Journal lay between them, its headlines stark and damning. "Phoenix rises. Medical innovation giant completes historic takeover of Drake Ventures." The stock markets had responded enthusiastically to the merger, with Phoenix Ashcroft Medical Technologies shares soaring while Drake Ventures' old stock was delisted. "The boys," Kingston began, his voice rough with emotion. "Their intelligence, their poise. I saw Atlas explaining neural pathway modification to the research team. He understands concepts that took me years to grasp." "He was reading medical journals at 4, Zara said, allowing herself a moment of maternal pride. "Orion, too. though he prefers the business side. They complement each other perfectly. Atlas creates the innovations, Orion sells them to the world. Through the glass they watched as Atlas pulled out his tablet, showing something to his brother. Orion's face lit up with enthusiasm, his hands moving animatedly as he discussed whatever breakthrough his twin had discovered. "I should have been there," Kingston whispered, pressing his hand against the glass. "Their first words, first steps. All those moments I threw away because of my stupid suspicions." "You missed more than moments," Zara's voice hardened. "You missed Atlas's first scientific paper, published in a peer-reviewed journal at age 5. You missed Orion organizing a charity fundraiser that raised $2 million for pediatric neural research. You missed their triumphs, their challenges, their growth into extraordinary young men." Kingston turned from the window, his face haggard with regret. "The procedure, Dr. Carter's treatment. If I had just listened, if you had listened, you would have known that those 3-hour appointments were saving your sons' lives. If you had asked questions instead of making accusations, you would have been part of a medical breakthrough that changed thousands of lives." Zara's smile was sharp as broken glass. "Instead, you let jealousy blind you to everything that mattered." A knock at the door interrupted them. Victoria Ashcroft entered with a stack of final documents. "The transition team needs these signed before close of business. Also, the boys' interview with Forbes Young Innovators is in an hour." Kingston watched as his 6-year-old sons prepared for a magazine interview that would cement their place as child prodigies in the medical technology world. They were so poised, so confident. Everything he had hoped his children would be, developed without any input from him. Atlas mentioned expanding the neural interface applications to pediatric cases, Victoria continued, addressing Zara. "His insights into childhood neural plasticity are revolutionary. The research team can't stop talking about his proposals. And Orion's presentation to the investor group this morning was incredible," she added. "He had seasoned venture capitalists eating out of his hand. Hard to believe they're only 6. Kingston sank into what had once been his chair, the weight of everything he had lost, pressing down on him. 6 years. I missed 6 years. "You missed everything," Zara corrected him, "and you'll miss everything yet to come. Their future achievements, their continued growth, their development into leaders who will change the world, all because you couldn't trust your wife, couldn't believe that maybe, just maybe, those long appointments were about something more important than your wounded pride." Through the glass, Atlas had moved to the window, studying the Chicago skyline with analytical interest. Orion joined him, pointing out landmarks with his characteristic enthusiasm. They were silhouetted against the city they would help shape, their young minds already planning innovations that would transform countless lives. "One chance," Kingston pleaded, his voice breaking. "One opportunity to be part of their lives. I'll do anything." "Anything?" Zara's laugh was cold. "Like what you did to me, freezing accounts, destroying reputations, giving 1 hour to leave the city. No, Kingston, you don't get chances with my sons. They're phoenixes now, in name and in spirit." Victoria cleared her throat diplomatically. "The press is waiting in the main conference room. We should begin the formal leadership transition announcement." Kingston stood on shaky legs, gathering the last of his personal items into a box. His empire, his legacy, his family, all lost because of one catastrophic misjudgment 6 years ago. "Watch them," Zara said softly, dangerously. "Watch from a distance as they grow into their brilliance. Watch as they revolutionize medical technology, save countless lives, build something far greater than Drake Ventures ever was. Watch and remember that you could have been part of it all." The office door opened, and the twins entered with perfect timing. They stood beside their mother, their bearing regal despite their young age. The family portrait they created was striking, powerful, unified, and completely independent of the man who should have been part of it. "Mom," Atlas said, his voice carrying the same authority she used in board meetings, "the research team is ready for our presentation on the new neural mapping protocol. And the PR department needs us for the official photos," Orion added, his charm already evident in his professional manner. "They want to document the historic transition." Kingston stepped toward them automatically, paternal instinct warring with the knowledge that he had forfeited any right to these boys. "Atlas, Orion, ... Mr. Drake." Atlas cut him off politely but firmly. "The security team is waiting to escort you out. We have a company to run." Orion's dismissal was equally powerful. "Goodbye, Mr. Drake. Perhaps in another 6 years you'll understand exactly what you lost today." As security arrived to escort Kingston from the building, he took one last look at his sons. Brilliant, beautiful, and completely beyond his reach. They had inherited his business acumen and their mother's determination, creating a combination that had ultimately destroyed him. "They're beautiful boys," he repeated softly, his words echoing his earlier statement. "They have your spirit." Zara gathered her sons close, their matching suits and confident smiles a testament to everything they had built together. "No, Kingston, they have everything they need, and none of it came from you." The elevator doors closed on Kingston Drake's past, while in his former office, the Phoenix family prepared to shape the future. His sons would change the world, revolutionize medicine, save countless lives, and he would watch it all from a distance, knowing that his own paranoia had cost him everything that truly mattered. The final meeting was over, the past was settled, and the Phoenix family's ascent was just beginning. Chapter 12. Phoenix rising Kingston Drake fell to his knees in the empty boardroom of what had once been his empire, the weight of 6 years of mistakes finally crushing his carefully constructed world. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Chicago's skyline blazed with the colors of sunset, painting the room in shades of fire and gold, fitting colors for a Phoenix's ultimate triumph. "Please, Zara," his voice cracked with desperation, all pretense of dignity stripped away. "I was wrong. I was a fool. Give me a chance to be their father. I'll do anything, give anything." Zara stood by the doorway, resplendent in a white Alexander McQueen suit that seemed to catch and hold the dying sunlight. Her sons flanked her like young princes, their matching midnight blue suits and identical expressions of calm judgment, making them look older than their 6 years. "Anything?" Her voice carried the weight of 6 years of calculated patience. "Let's talk about anything, Kingston. 6 years ago, you gave me 1 hour, 1 single hour, to leave Chicago. You froze every account, blocked every opportunity, destroyed every relationship I had built. You turned our entire world against me with carefully crafted lies." Atlas stepped forward, his young face so like his father's, yet carrying his mother's strength. "You didn't just reject our mother," his voice precise and cutting. "You rejected scientific truth. The medical procedures that saved our lives became the foundation for technology that will help millions. Your paranoia didn't just cost you a family. It almost cost the world a breakthrough." "We've reviewed all the documents," Orion added, his fierce, protective instinct evident in every word. "Every accusation you made, every lie you spread, every attack on our mother's reputation. We understand exactly who you are, Mr. Drake, and we want nothing from you." Through the boardroom's glass walls, they could see the transition team working. Phoenix Ashcroft Medical Technologies logos were already replacing the Drake Ventures signage. Screens displayed soaring stock prices and glowing press coverage of the merger. The medical technology world was celebrating the rise of a new empire, one built from the ashes of Kingston's betrayal. "Your sons," Kingston's voice broke as he gestured toward the boys. Atlas's brilliant mind, Orion's natural leadership. They're everything I dreamed my children would be. They're not your sons. Zara's voice was soft, but carried the force of absolute truth. Biology doesn't make a father. Trust does. Love does. Presence does. You failed at all three. These extraordinary boys are phoenixes, in name, in spirit, and in achievement. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the boardroom floor. In the distance, a news helicopter circled, trying to capture footage of the historic corporate transition. The business world was watching as one empire fell and another rose from its ruins. The neural interface trials begin next week, Atlas reported, consulting his tablet. Preliminary data suggests we could help thousands of paralyzed patients regain mobility within the first year alone. And the investor interest is unprecedented, Orion added with practiced confidence. Our market valuation has tripled since the merger announcement. The Phoenix-Ashcroft partnership will revolutionize medical technology worldwide. Kingston staggered to his feet, reaching toward the boys with trembling hands. Please, I know I can't undo the past, but let me be part of your future. Let me try to make amends. Amends? Zara's laugh was crystalline and sharp. 6 years ago, you chose pride over love, suspicion over trust, destruction over family. You didn't just dismiss me, Kingston. You dismissed the possibility that your wife, a renowned neurosurgeon, might be involved in revolutionary medical research. Your ego couldn't handle the thought that those suspicious appointments were actually saving your sons' lives. The neural regeneration protocols derived from our prenatal treatment, Atlas explained with clinical detachment, have advanced medical science by decades. While you were spreading lies about our mother, she was developing technology that will change the world. Your loss, Mr. Drake, your very, very big loss. Through the windows, they could see Victoria Ashcroft leading a team of executives through the trading floor. The merger had created the world's largest medical technology company, with innovations that would transform healthcare forever. And at its heart were two brilliant 6-year-old boys who should have been Kingston's pride and joy. Today's board meeting was unanimous, Orion announced, his young voice carrying all the authority of a seasoned executive. Phoenix Ashcroft Medical Technologies will absorb all of Drake Ventures' assets. Your father's company isn't being destroyed, Mr. Drake. It's being transformed into something far greater than you ever imagined. Kingston sank into a chair, the full weight of his loss finally hitting home. All these years, I convinced myself I was right, that the appointments, the meetings with Dr. Carter, ... We're saving your sons' lives, Zara finished. Every suspicion you held, every accusation you made, was actually evidence of medical innovation that could have secured your company's future years ago. Ironic, isn't it? Your paranoia cost you not just your family, but the very breakthrough you desperately needed. Atlas approached his father, his analytical mind evident in his careful observation. Your carotid artery shows significant stress pulsation. Perhaps you should consult a physician. Though not at Phoenix Ashcroft facilities, I'm afraid you've been permanently flagged as non-admissible. We'll help millions of patients, Orion added, his voice carrying his mother's compassion tempered with steel. But not you. Never you. The sun finally set, plunging the boardroom into twilight. Emergency board meetings were still ongoing throughout the building as the corporate transition continued. Kingston's world was being systematically dismantled and rebuilt under the Phoenix name, all orchestrated by the family he had discarded. Goodbye, Kingston. Zara's voice was gentle but final. Consider this a lesson in consequences. 6 years ago, you gave me an hour to leave Chicago. Now we're giving you until midnight to leave this building. Everything you built, everything you thought you owned, now belongs to the family you rejected. The company, Kingston whispered, broken, will thrive without you, Atlas stated firmly. Our innovations pipeline is already transforming the industry. The neural interface technology was just the beginning. And our mother, Orion added with fierce pride, will lead it all. The woman you tried to destroy will now control everything you built. Poetic justice, isn't it? As they turned to leave, Kingston made one final, desperate attempt. Zara, please, for the boys. No, she cut him off, gathering her sons close. Not for the boys. They don't need you, Kingston. They never did. Look at them. Brilliant, compassionate, stronger than you could ever be. We built this empire without you. We'll build something even greater, also without you. The Phoenix family walked away, their footsteps echoing through the boardroom that had witnessed both their exile and their triumph. Through the glass walls, Chicago's lights began to twinkle, a symphony of electric stars celebrating the rise of a new dynasty. "Mom?" Orion asked as they entered their private elevator. "Are we ever coming back here?" Zara smiled, pulling both boys close. "No, my loves. Our story isn't about looking back anymore. It's about soaring forward." Atlas nodded thoughtfully. Phoenix Ashcroft's new headquarters will be ready next month. 50 stories of cutting-edge research facilities and medical innovation centers built on our terms, Orion added with satisfaction. No traces of Drake Ventures left. As their elevator descended, they could see their reflection in the polished doors. A mother and her sons, bound not just by blood but by triumph over adversity. Kingston had tried to destroy them, but instead he had forged them into something unstoppable. Behind them, in the darkened boardroom, Kingston Drake faced the ruins of his empire alone. Through the windows, he would watch as Phoenix Ashcroft Medical Technologies transformed the skyline, its new tower rising higher than Drake Ventures had ever reached. He would read about his sons' achievements, their innovations, their triumphs, all from a distance, knowing that his own paranoia had cost him everything that truly mattered. The Phoenix family stepped out into the Chicago night, their chauffeur holding the door of their Rolls-Royce. Above them, the sky blazed orange and gold, a perfect backdrop for a phoenix rising from the ashes of betrayal. They had come back to Chicago not for revenge, but for justice. Not to destroy, but to transform. Not to remember the past, but to build the future. Kingston Drake had tried to clip their wings. Instead, he had taught them to soar. Subscribe if you liked.